Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live here on Fringe.fm, also YouTube. Tune in live 365 and wherever you're listening from across the World Wide Web. It's Tuesday, February the 11th, 2025. Thank God we made it. If we could just get past Valentine's Day, all is going to be good, right? So, newsflash, carbon monoxide poisoning is a real thing. I want everybody to be aware of it, know that it's a real thing, and that it could happen. I had a bit of a scare. Yesterday morning, I woke up and, I've been talking about these heaters before we get into the conscious exploration, what's going on, all this stuff. So these Chinese heaters you can get for like less than $100 heats up the place great. It's a good heater. I'm not gonna lie, for the money, it's great. But I think I woke up around 5:30, 6:30 in the morning, and the whole shack was filled with smoke. And I thought to myself, what the hell's going on? So I jumped out of bed. Let's be honest, right? I jumped out of the air mattress. It's not really a bed. But I jumped out of bed and cut the heater off. And thank God it was diesel, right? You see this little piece of tubing here. Notice how that tip is melted right there. Can you guys see that, or is the green screen cutting it out? So the way they design these things, for all you dudes or whoever is into this stuff, just so you know, if you order one of these heaters at fringe.fm/heater, you need to check the installation. So it's very simple. It's got a tank on the top, a diesel combustion center on the bottom. That's all it's got, right? That's it. A fuel pump, a fuel filter, and at the bottom it has an exhaust and intake and a fuel line. It's not that difficult. Yes, you do need to run the exhaust outside. Yeah, that's absolutely necessary. But there's a little bit of an issue with these things, I think. It could just be my unit, because I went across all of the web online to try to figure out if I'm the only person this happened to, and I guess it looks like I'm the only person this happened to. So the hose runs up next to the intake underneath the engine, right? It's not a big deal. It just doesn't have a lot of room for it to go anywhere else. But the exhaust is probably about 2 inches, maybe a couple of inches away. Now, the problem is whoever installed this left enough slack in the hose that the hose turned and bent around and kinked, which I didn't even notice. It had a kink in it next to the exhaust, right? And slowly but surely, the exhaust, I don't know if you guys can see this if you're listening on the radio station, there's a little bitty melted point right here. And diesel fuel started to drip down on my exhaust pipe. Now, the exhaust pipe runs outside, but there's about that much exhaust on the inside. The good news is diesel flashes, I think, at about 400 degrees, right? Yeah, it's kinky. So no chance of it setting fire. I don't think the exhaust would have got that hot, but it was hot enough to make the place smoke, and smoke does put off like carbon monoxide. So just letting you guys know, check the installation when you get it, because they are kind of, I'm going to do a short video on one. They're really cool. They're really efficient, but you need to check the lines, check everything, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just email me if you get one. So it's fringe.fm/heater. They're VVOR diesel heaters. They're great heaters, but just make sure that this fuel hose isn't kinked or close to the exhaust. That's it. Speaking of conscious exploration, I was awake enough to wake up from that. Some people don't wake up from that. I've heard that, once you're deep sleep enough, I guess that, smoke could fill the room or whatever, but it was enough for me to, I don't know, it's like some kind of weird thing just woke me up. So something's not right. I have that. Some of us have that. Hopefully we all have that, but I have that. If something's not right, it's kind of strange too, right? Because you're asleep, but you always have this sense of awareness. Like if I hear something outside or if something's off, I'll wake up every time. I don't know why. I just do. I'm one of those guys that does check the noise that's downstairs. You know, some guys are like, they go back to sleep or whatever. Not me. If there's something freaky going on, I'll wake up, go check it out. Right. So anyways, all is good. So what I did was I cut the hose and looped the fuel line back around to the bottom. I made a I didn't need to, but I kind of got over safe and made a heat shield. So it's got a nice heat shield under there with some 600-degree tape, and it's working good now. Shack's warm. But yeah, that was a little scary. All right. So just that's the only pretty much interesting thing that's happened other than the other night, because I've decided to open up a live show chat in the Discord. I saw a couple people, maybe it was one, I think it was Jenny or somebody that was just in the community hangout, the chill and talk. And so I jumped in, we started chilling and talking. And the next thing you know, everybody was in there chilling and talking. We had at one time like 8 or 9, I don't know, 10 people maybe in there just shooting the shit. And we sat and talked all night for hours. That reminds me of the old days of the show, because we used to do that. We used to talk, off show hours and stuff. Watch movies together, all kinds of stuff. It's real fun. So I appreciate it. Let's keep that going. If you guys want to, right? Monica Wilson says, I'm the one in the middle of the morning checking out all the scary shit. Yeah, me too. I mean, I'll be dead asleep, like in the middle of a dream. And if there's something weird going on outside or some kind of weird, strange thing, like I'll just wake up. I can't help it. It's probably annoying, but I can't help it. Also, this last book, and I'm telling you, this is going to be the last book that we get into for a while, because we've been doing books on the air for a long time, and I enjoy reading to you guys and talking about these books and everything. But I feel like that unless you guys bring me another OBE book that's just as good, I feel like that this book is probably going to be the last one for a while. I'm going to try to get guests back on permanently, or maybe just do something else on the show. But I feel like we've hit so many points when it comes to the OBE thing, and there's only so many things that we can ask questions about when it comes to it before it gets to a place to where we're getting pretty repetitive, right? Still, we don't have answers, though, no answers whatsoever to some of this stuff. Trey said, yeah, Trey was there. Trey said it was a good time. MJ said, I almost joined in. Man, if you're thinking about it, if you're in the Discord, like all new friends, old listeners, everyone's welcome. Like if you're even thinking about, oh man, maybe I'll join the party or whatever, do it. Just jump in, right? All right. You have enough extra line to reattach it. So, is that the reason they put the extra slack in the line? I don't know. It wasn't that much slack. I just think that I had the heater turned up because it was really cold, and so it tends to get a little hotter. And I don't think so much if it was the slack as it was the kink, because the kink makes the hose a little weaker right there, So we are the shit. That's right. A question I wanted to ask you guys. I don't bring up Facebook stuff on the broadcast a lot, but I thought I would. So I had a guest on a long time ago. I think I had him on a couple times. His name's Jason Augustus Newcomb, a fellow conscious explorer, teacher, and occultist, right? And, I don't claim to be a teacher of any kind or enlightened or a coach or any of that stuff, although I do have a pretty good ability to help people explore consciously without the need of drugs. Not saying that drugs aren't a good way of exploring your consciousness. I do that too. But what I'm saying is that's the only thing that I really help people with. Now, he asked a pretty good question, and it started a ruckus on his channel, on his page. And if you're not following Jason Augustus Newcomb, I think you should, because he does ask good questions on here. And his question is, with the widespread availability of previously secret spiritual methods, and the constant additions of spiritual pioneers to the world today, Why do you think there are so few enlightened beings? That's a pretty good question. So, with the constant release of information, because there's no hidden information now when it comes to this secret, occult, secret society stuff, none of it's really secret anymore. You can, if you're willing to study, you can find out everything. So, what he's saying is with the widespread availability of that information, plus the increase in teachers, spiritual gurus, coaches, all these things, why do you think there are so few enlightened beings? And people started commenting like crazy on this. And I think I jumped in the chat last night. I think it was, who was in there? Dutchie and Sir Wolf. And we were kind of talking about this, right? And Jeremy Davis commented, said, the real question is, has anyone ever achieved that? Even the historic ones thought to have done so. I don't think you can exist here without oscillating back and forth. And if they do achieve it, is it likely that they're rumored to simply vanish or evaporate? Because if you become truly non-binary, in a binary universe, you would not be able to exist here. Well, you know what? There are some top responses to this by other people that have been on this show. For instance, Rufus Opus or Joshua said, "What is an enlightened being, Jason? Give me some metrics to go by and I'll tell you what I think about who measures up and who fails." Enlightenment. That is a hell of a question, right? What is enlightenment? And how come there's so many people that claim to know what it is, that teach it, and if they do, should we trust them? Do we even know what it is? And I think he's making a good point, because there is really no secret information anymore. There is a lack of, I guess, research where people are not willing to keep digging as far as like intellectual research goes, but there's no secrets anymore. So there's no excuse for knowledge not being in that equation. There's a ton of people claiming to be gurus, coaches, teachers, and all this kind of thing. And yet, does it feel, I think you should ask this, does it feel like that we live in like a more enlightened society than we used to? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Let's see. I'm pretty sure Lon Milo Duquette commented on here, and he might have taken it down, but Lon took the status and he said that I don't know that I would be able. Let me see if I can find the most relevant. See if I can get his up, because there's a whole lot of people. It's funny too. What I find interesting about this is how someone could put up a post about just relatively mundane stuff, and yet when you put up a post like this, everybody just floods the gates with comments. Why is that? I don't see Lon's comment on here anymore. Maybe he took it down, but his comment earlier was that he doesn't know if he is qualified to be the judge of that. And that's what I feel like. And it's not to be humble or to be an asshole or to avoid the question or anything like that. It's just like, the more stuff that I explore consciously, whether it's magic, ceremonial magic, chaos magic, the out-of-body experience, lucid dreaming, any of this stuff, the more I explore, the more questions I have. And all of those questions equal to me that I don't think any one of us should be the judge of who's enlightened and who's not. How do you measure enlightenment to begin with? Sudi says, when there was no TV or internet, chasing enlightenment was a good way to kill some time. Yeah. There's a lot of theories, man. We still haven't figured out, like, we still have the religious theory of demons and angels. That's still a thing. God created the world. There's demons and angels and Nephilim and all that stuff. Shout out to my Diablo 4 players out there. We still have the Prometheus kind of thing where aliens seeded this planet and so forth. We still have the theory that AI created this thing. There's the theory that consciousness is like from Thomas Campbell, that everything is just consciousness and the greater consciousness system created all this, and all of this is just a program, like a virtual program or whatever. And then there is obviously the, the kind of nihilist atheist theory that it's all just random and it doesn't mean shit. It's all based on a flip of a coin. Now, it is a personal question, but I don't think enlightenment is something that any other, this is just my opinion, okay? I don't think enlightenment is something that any other person should be able to measure another person and say that they're enlightened. Although we could say people like Buddha, Jesus, maybe the Dalai Lama, I don't know, a couple of people, maybe the Dalai Lama, a couple of people seem to be more conscious, more aware. But I sat and thought about this after I read that for a little while, thinking, well, even when you say the words spirituality, what does that mean? All I know is physicality and metaphysicality, right? There's physical stuff, and that's only related to our bodies and our sense perception. And then there's metaphysical stuff that we theorize, and stuff that we've measured with microscopes, and anything smaller than that is all theory. So what does it mean to be enlightened? Monica says, no one can judge that. It's a realization of one soul. That's kind of the conclusion I came to. Yeah? Again, comparison to me is the thing that leads to anxiety, depression, bad things, all of that stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't look around and even say, I like this, I don't like that. But if you begin to compare yourself to other people, and in some level you kind of have to live here, right? We do. But if you do it for a thing like, I don't know, spiritual enlightenment, it doesn't seem right. I think enlightenment is what Monica's saying. Enlightenment is when you realize you're enlightened, and no one else is going to tell you that. No one else is going to be the judge of that. No one else should be the judge of that. So that's just my opinion on it. But as far as like the list, is there like a grocery list of items that equals enlightenment? Well, I mean, we could say, well, you're consciously aware, you have empathy, you're not ignorant, right? You're not delusional. But to me, that's just awareness. That's not the same thing as enlightenment. The word enlightenment to me always seems like it came from some divine place, like some divine being came down and taught me something, or I just realized that I was this divine being and now I'm enlightened, It doesn't seem like the same thing as awareness. Ryan Scargan says, most have no respect for those who came before them or lineage. Most don't even respect secret orders anymore. Everyone's an expert. Kate Collins says, what did they accomplish in orders that we're not doing outside of them? And he says this, tons. Most things won't be revealed to those on the outside, and he puts that in quotation marks. Oaths and secrecy, they exist for a reason. Everything isn't printed in books or on the internet. I don't believe that anymore. I think pretty much everything's on the internet that we're aware of. Pretty close to it. Not all, maybe not 100% of things, but pretty much most of everything. Everything that I've learned and studied in magic, the occult, out-of-body experience, esoteric, everything that I've learned intellectually is pretty much on the internet. That includes the secrets of alchemy, the things that they think that are hidden still, Well, let's see. Spirituality is oneness within. What did Sudi say? I've never felt the same after that. What? The Dalai Lama. Oh, don't know about the Dalai Lama. Jenny says, though. Remember when he asked that kid to suck his tongue? Yeah, that's not really enlightened, is it? Comparison is the ultimate joy killer. I agree. I totally agree. All right. So just if you got anything about that, like, let me know, because here's what Jason Miller's been on the show too. Here's what he said. Because there never were. If you guys aren't familiar with Jason Miller, he's another occultist. I think he wrote a couple of books too. So there are only ever been, he says there were only ever beings a few steps ahead. Not enlightened, they were just a few steps ahead. The people they taught did a few things. Number one, they interpreted their teachers as being farther ahead than they actually were. Number two, they exaggerated their teachers' realization to others as a marketing tactic. Number three, they arranged the teachings into systems that were in competition with other systems post-mortem, which required a perfect enlightened teacher to compete with other claims of enlightenment. Number four, they used claims of enlightenment as a method of control, sometimes of the small cult, sometimes of a nation. It's a pretty good question. I'd say because we measure, I don't know, we measure lots of things, like your intelligence. So if you're, a tech guru or a tech giant, you're supposed to know what the hell you're talking about, right? You're supposed to be educated in that. We measure mechanics by how well they can work on cars. We measure businessmen by how well they invest their money and how they treat money. We measure health nuts by how healthy they keep their bodies and what they're doing to their bodies and, that kind of thing. So we have all kinds of different things to measure, but enlightenment, how do we measure that? It's a big thing right now. You got Witch Talk, YouTube, Facebook. I get emails. I know you guys want me to have guests on the show, but I get emails all the time from these like spiritual guru people, all the time. Some of them say they're star seeds and all these different things, and they're healing people. And if you buy their course for $49.99, $99.99, whatever, you can be one too. And it's just like, I try to stay away from all that. There are some people that I respect, though. I've had them on the broadcast, but it's just gotten so damn overwhelming that I don't think we're even asking questions anymore. I think everybody's like, we're in this era where everybody's trying to teach something, and what I got to teach is better than what the other person's got to teach, and what I got to say is more than what this other person's got to say, and everybody's trying to outsmart everybody. It seems like back in the day when the podcasting world was like new, we just asked questions. That's all we did. Everything was interesting. Curiosities were open. Our minds were open to anything. It was just interesting. What the hell happened? If somebody makes a point of showing you how enlightened they are, they're probably not. I would say that too, Starseed Awakening says enlightened would have a better understanding etymologically in light and knowing of the self. Yeah. I mean, you could pick apart the word etymologically and see what enlightenment means, but to me, I don't know. I judge people by awareness. And don't start saying, "Oh, I don't judge anybody. I don't judge. Don't be a judge." You all judge things every day. And if you say you don't judge things, then you're not very self-aware, because that's what you're designed to do. So I judge people based on their empathy, how they treat others, and just their awareness. That's it. I don't care about, I gotta be honest with you, like, I don't care about how divine they are, or do they know any deeper secrets than me, because I don't think anybody knows anything as deep as they're claiming to know. Sometimes it's bullshit, and sometimes it's a theory. And at least, and this is my point, at least a guy like Thomas Campbell, who we've talked about quite a bit recently on the show because he was just on Rogan. Now, he does have quite a bit of a following. He does teach and talk about a lot of things. But at the end of the day, he still says, this is based on my theory. I can't tell you that this is absolutely true, but in a sensical way, this is based upon my theory of everything, right? So he doesn't claim that he's got some secret knowledge or that he's teaching something that we couldn't figure out for ourselves if we started thinking logically. And I don't like using the word enlightened, but to me, that's pretty cool. But he's still not like what I would consider what this article is saying, like enlightened. Are you enlightened? Makes you think of like the Buddha, the Krishna, or some spiritual guru or something, you know. My Endless Road says you can only be enlightened if you can see the light in someone when they can't see it in themselves. That's a pretty nice thing to say. What's up, Pope? My experience is many people see enlightenment as an escape. It's kind of lost its meaning. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day too, right? Wonder if people are using spirituality to avoid, and I say this not, I know I come across like this asshole that's saying, like, I'm not talking down to anybody. Like, I've done this stuff, okay? But I think sometimes we use new age things, spiritual things, or whatever, because it, number one, it really, really entices our mind. So we can get super passionate about it because it's massively interesting, right? But we can get lost in it and not deal with ourselves at all. The real question is I think we should be asking ourselves is how many of us really claim to be enlightened to begin with, which I don't think is that many of us. And if you do, if you think you're super knowledgeable, super spiritual, or whatever you think you are, the question you should ask yourself, just like I should ask myself on a daily basis, is, have I done work on myself? Do I know myself fully? And do I know myself enough to where that I'm doing something good in the world? Like, that's what I ask myself. Am I helping others? Am I being of service to people? Am I helping? Am I loving people properly? Not because I should, or because it makes me look good, or because that's what people want me to do, because that's what feels right in my heart, you know. Foodie's got it. Everybody's avoiding something, yeah. And it should be okay just to be yourself. That's what I'm hoping for. I think they should just get rid of that word enlightenment. Like, honestly, this is going to sound weird. I love magic. I love the occult. I love the esoteric. I practice Hermeticism. Like, that's kind of my, I guess you could say, spiritual thing. But it's only because it does cause me to deal with myself, right? Like, that's why I do it. But other than that, like, I could care less about, seriously, I mean, I could care less about enlightenment, you know? In that sense of the word. Everything else is just interesting to me. I don't shoot myself in the foot, but that's just true, you know. I'm not one of those people that believe that this is some kind of prison planet that when we die, we're going to go somewhere better than this place and everything is going to be hunky-dory and we're going to, ride around on white horses and go to some extra dimension or whatever. Based on everything I've observed, consciousness wants to live. It wants to live. It wants love, light, life, those things. That's what it wants. So what if enlightenment is simply just to live? And love, and that's it. It could be that damn simple, but we have complicated this thing to no end. All right, so I want to get back into this text. When we get done with this text, we're going to be done with the books for a while. But these last like 5 or 6 texts that we've gotten into, I think are super important, all the way from Muldoon to this text here. Okay? Now, this one is... just in my opinion, is super important. This one's called Explorations of Consciousness by Frederick Ardema. Gotta ask a question. I should have put the question on YouTube. Did any of you guys do the hypnagogic homework assignments? Did you? And if you did, like, did it work? How did you stay in it at all? You know? It's not Muldoon, it's Muldoon. I was calling him Voldoon because it sounded cooler, but his name's Muldoon with a M. Unless I got that wrong again, but I remember, if you don't remember correctly, when I found out that I was saying his name wrong forever, Muldoon. Anyways, I don't think he's alive, so he's probably not going to get mad at either one of us if we're wrong, right? So, variations in sensory reduction. Here's the thing. Some people experience exiting the physical body through selective parts of their body. Now, this is one of the most fascinating things to me about conscious exploration, and that would be experience. Yeah, we can argue all semantics all day long. Are you really coming out of your body? Are you really whatever? But what you experience is coming out of your body in certain places. Let me be clear on this. There's two different things that I'm talking about. Now, some people come out of body through a place on their body, and then there's another variation into what I'm talking about as to where like people have parts of their body that come out, but the other ones don't, right? What did you say? I tried hypno unsuccessful. What's up? Welcome to the Astral Dojo. This is the cool part about this. See, you're gonna get into like this hypnagogic thing, and you're gonna try it a million times, and you're gonna be unsuccessful, and you're gonna fall asleep. But if you hold steady and you keep trying, one day you're going to have a trippy experience playing with it. Just when you least expect it. You're going to get out of body, or you're going to hear voices, or you're going to see crazy faces. You're going to have weird experiences. And in my opinion, like if you want to have psychedelic experiences, no need. I'm not saying, I really hope you guys realize I'm not against psychedelics. I love psychedelics. Yeah. But you're not going to have a psychedelic experience but like you would in the hypnagogic state. It's not, I don't even know if you'd call it psychedelic. I don't think it is. It's a really strange place where you get to just tap into, just for a second, that place where we're all connected. Now, inside that place, your brain has a bunch of gobbledygook that gets involved with it, but lots of weird and strange things happen. Number one, we talked about it last week where I think it was Bryce that was talking to me about this, where you see strange faces, even demonic faces in such detail. And it's not like a flash memory from a scary movie or something. I've seen faces that were so detailed, and I've never seen them before in anywhere. Here's where it gets weirder. They just pop out for a second, right? Like that. And I could see them. Here's where it gets even more weird. I'm not scared of them. It doesn't freak me out. It doesn't freak me out until after I wake up and then start thinking about it. What the hell was that? Two, another thing that happens in the hypnagogic state is voices. I think Tamishi was talking in Discord where he heard the same thing. It just sounds like you can hear chatter. What is that? It's that, like, are you tapping into the collective and all of a sudden you can hear everybody's thoughts and it sounds like you're sitting in the middle of a cafeteria? Or is it really your brain doing that? This stuff happens. And look, let's keep it interesting. Don't pick up a psychological magazine or a science magazine where they're telling you it's just some delusion of the mind because you ate a brownie that wasn't cooked all the way. If you really think about it, that's the biggest bullshit reason. Like, there's real stuff going on. And if you've explored this stuff enough, you'd know it. That's the thing that really agitates me the most about this is the skeptics, when they talk about this thing, they have not explored this realm the way we have, right? The way that conscious explorers have. Enough to know that it's not some kind of weird trick of the mind or the brain misfiring or you having some kind of weird thing psychologically going on. That stuff is mixed in there and you can see it and you're very aware of it. But the other stuff is there, right? So what about experiences in which you exit the physical through selective parts of the physical body? Ernst Walty, for example, reported leaving the physical body through the head, like he shoots out of his head. Would this not indicate that you are separating from the physical body rather than merely separating from sensory input? One theory says that when you get out of body, like Thomas Campbell's theory is that you're changing realities, you're changing virtual realities. So you're moving from in the body to sensory input to something else. Indeed, on the surface, an experience in which you exit the physical body through selective parts of the body seems to suggest that you are literally leaving the body. And at first, it seems to suggest that. That's what we should be asking, right? Are we literally leaving the body? Or are we just changing frequencies or separating our realities or virtual realities, whatever? Now, this guy says, Ardema. He says, however, you are not exiting the physical body in these instances. And here's his journal entry. Keep the times in mind. Monday, April 18th, 2005, 4:20 a.m. Last night, I once again found myself back in the vibrational stage. I decided to watch the process of separation more carefully and try something different. I began bringing down the vibrations to a localized area in my body, as I had done on a previous occasion. And doing so was more a matter of mental acrobats than anything else. Remaining poised on the borderline of sleep, that's hypnagogia, right? Very close to complete physical body awareness. And I managed to do so, and soon the only sensation that remained was a fluttering sensation near my heart. Again, it felt like a butterfly flapping its wings inside of me. I then tried to separate and squeeze my way through this tiny area of fluttering sensations. Not entirely surprised, I soon figured out that this was impossible. The space to, quote, move through was way too small. Besides, I was still far too physical. I moved deeper into sleep, using the same mental acrobats, until the vibrations had expanded to my upper body, and like a liquid whirling across my chest, they now covered most of my upper body. Again, I tried to move out, but successfully this time. There was some resistance, and it felt as if I were worming my way through a hollow tube. But I managed to get out through the upper body region. And once out, I quickly realigned with the physical and repeated the process while keeping the vibrations limited to the upper part of my body. This time, however, I attempted to move out by going downward. However, the absence of any vibrations in that region made moving out through the lower body impossible. That is absolutely freaking trippy to me. So this guy learned how to move the vibrations up and down his body. And at first he made a small area where he could vibrate. I guess it was like a small circle around his heart. He made a small area and then tried to leave through that small area, and it didn't work. And then he went back into the vibratory state. This is all according to what he's saying. Just his upper body. But that was enough for him to totally come out just through his upper body. Scruffy Bear says, I had a hypnagogic experience. It wasn't planned, felt super real, but shinier. Real, but shinier. That's funny. Remember, you can call into the show. I know we're getting to the top. Damn, we're already getting to the top of the hour. We're getting to the top of the hour. But 501-777-5631, you can always get into the broadcast. You can also join our Discord, and you'll see my name down there under live show. And if I hear you pop in there, you can get on the broadcast too through that. If you want to tell your story, we'd love to hear it. That's crazy. So the main reason you find yourself leaving the body through a selective body part is because of an unequal distribution and sensory reduction in the physical body. Now that's the theory. That's what he's saying though. Consequently, you're only able to exit the body through those parts where energy sensations have intensified sufficiently. So while it may feel as if you're moving out of the physical body, you're not really exiting through a physical body part. Rather, you are exiting through a selective. This is where shit gets really weird, okay? You're exiting through a selective phantom body part that is no longer informed by sensory input. Now, remember earlier, the other day when he talked about, I don't know how, I'm going to try to explain this, but he talked about that a lot of times when people get out of body, you can see your physical body. He started having instances where he would get out of body, but he couldn't see his physical body. So he has this theory that sometimes when we get out of body, we create a whole other body. And I think our mind does it. I don't know, but it's like this phantom body that we kind of create, I guess, for transitional purposes. I don't know. Does that even make sense? Why would God, nature, whatever this thing is, to consciousness, create that many different bodies? That doesn't even make sense to me. Consciousness. Sorry. ADD thing, though. Okay, so you may, for example, after almost having left the physical body, suddenly get stuck at your feet. I got stuck at my head. That does happen. Absolutely. None of these difficulties are the result of energy blockages, as is sometimes suggested in esoteric accounts of the OBE. Yeah, the New Age people like to say that too. Well, maybe you got a blockage, you know? Isn't it funny how everybody likes to say that about you? It's not, they don't have a blockage, but you got it. Maybe something's blocking you, you know? They merely represent the incomplete retraction of the physical senses in certain parts of the physical body. You'll get stuck in exactly those places where too high a level of sensory input is still present. So what he's saying is, this might be true. This might be the answer to my crazy question about this. So, I got 3 minutes here. But what he's saying is that when you get to the vibratory state, you have deadened your sensory input. So, you've increased your energy, so to speak, but you've also deadened that sensory input in the physical body. Now, if you have places in the body that are kind of deadened or hypnotized or paralyzed or vibrating, and other places that aren't, when you try to get out of body, you can't really get out of the body, I guess, or inconsistent with the body. If your head, for instance, in my case, where I guess I could still feel my head, and the rest of me was numb. Oh, this sounds crazy. Well, I'll give you an example. I know I sound like a complete freaking nutcase. So, again, this goes back to like when I was laying on my stomach, and I like to do this. I don't recommend it to start out, but I'm quite comfortable on my belly, and I can get out of body going backwards a lot of times. So I'll lay on my stomach, and I'll just kind of float out. I was going to talk to you guys about this later in more detail, but what sometimes will happen is that my head will get stuck and my feet will float up. So it's almost like, and I've talked to you guys about this before, but it's almost like my head is like an anchor, and I can feel my feet just getting ready to fly, almost like being lifted away like a hot air balloon, and yet my head is keeping me anchored from leaving all the way. And not only that, my ears will start to feel pressure in them. That is, and is a trippy thing. Now, what he's saying is that while you're getting into this state of sensory deprivation, energy increase, letting go of the sensory input in the body, sometimes we don't let go all the way, like in the head or the feet or whatever. And two things can happen. Like you could get stuck there, or it could keep you from getting all the way out. Or if you're, I guess, as sly as this guy is, you could slide out through the other part of your body and not even worry about it. You'll get stuck in exactly those places where too high a level of sensory input is still present. Incomplete sensory retraction and selected body parts may also translate into complex illusions. One person, for example, reported finding her feet entangled in the bed sheets, which prevented her from completing the process of separation. Here, incomplete sensory retraction of the feet and the inability to separate from the senses at the feet leads to a perception of the most probable cause in the mind of the projector. So she's doing like Occam's razor. I didn't get out of body because my feet were tangled up in the bed sheets. Right. The sheets must be wrapped around my feet. Another variation of incomplete sensory retraction is a sensation of peeling out during the process or moving out of the body. You may experience friction, perhaps even complete with sound effects, such as a crackling sound. I've heard people talk about that too before, crackling sound. Not me, however. I've never heard a crackling sound, but some people have. Again, however, these perceptions are due to incomplete sensory reduction that creates the illusion of friction. The source of the friction is, of course, quite real. It's just that its symbolic manifestation is not. All right, so when we come back, we're going to talk about how this relates to sleep paralysis and what that actually could be, what that is. Trippy stuff. It's so weird, man. I know it sounds weird. I know it sounds strange, but this is Lighting the Void. And what I just said actually did really happen. We'll be right back.
Outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Look through your children's eyes to see the true magic of a forest. It's a storybook world for them. You look and see a tree. They see the wrinkled face of a wizard with arms outstretched to the sky. They see treasure in pebbles. They see a windy path that could lead to adventure. And they see you, their fearless guide through this fascinating world.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Well, I started off at the beginning of the broadcast talking about enlightenment based on a Facebook post that I saw, or with all the information that, this is by Jason Augustus Newcomb, with all the information that's out there now, with all the spiritual coaches and gurus, like, how come there's so few enlightened people? And that's his statement, not mine. When it comes to conscious awareness, I think we're far more enlightened than we used to be. Check this out. Do humans still do dumb shit? I mean, pardon my French, but do we? This is something that, we're here talking about consciousness, the out-of-body experience, things like that. And I'm going to continue our discussion that we were talking about before, when it comes to the separation process and all the weird stuff that happens when we separate from our bodies. But this is the difference. When I think about this kind of stuff all the time, we, as a small group, are thinking about conscious exploration, the out-of-body experience. What does it mean? What is it? How do we do it? Is it real? Is it not? That kind of thing. And yet, not less than 50 years ago, a woman tried to jump out of the Empire State Building on the 86th floor, but was blown back into the building on the 85th floor. And I'm not playing. This is how weird life is, right? This thing stands 1,500 feet tall. Is that right? Approximately. There's no way anybody's going to survive that, and she knew that when she jumped. However, when the woman, and her name was Elvita Adams, you can look this up, when she tried to kill herself, when she jumped out, a strong gust of wind blew her back into the 85th floor. Divine intervention. Yeah, right. So when I see stuff like that on Facebook about like how enlightened are we, or I think we're all lost on a certain level. I don't care how smart you are, how intelligent you are. When it comes to the bigger questions, we're lost. Most of us. There's theories, and there's some really good theories. And so far, all that we've been able to do and close to proving is getting out of body, having out of body experiences, psychedelic experiences, and near-death experiences, and reincarnation stories. And we have enough of those to go, like something's really happening here. The rest is just trial and error. I would even go as far as to say, as I believe personally, that manifestation and all of this stuff like magic, chaos magic, things like that, I think there's something to it because I tried it and it works. But do I know, am I enlightened enough to tell you the real answers of all this? And if I tell you, it's going to change your life, and then if I've got some course that you're going to buy that's going to give you all the answers so that you can find happiness, peace, and not be worried about any of this stuff. No. I do, however, have t-shirts and audios and stuff like that that'll help you get to these crazy states of conscious exploration. Just saying. If you want to grab some of those, that'd be great. All right. 501-777-5631 is the calling number. It's 10 minutes after 10 o'clock here in the natural state. Always wanted to say that. And it's February the 11th. I'm just waiting for Valentine's Day to be over. 50-50. Fair to Midland. So, again, back to this thing here. We can get into the semantics if there's a separation, if there's not separation or all that. But what really happens is people do get stuck in their body. They get stuck in their body at certain places in their body. And people are reporting to come out of certain places in their body. Now, this guy's theory is that it's all about what parts of the body are sensory deprived and what ones aren't. Okay? Now, let me reiterate this. A variation on the same theme of an unequal distribution of sensory reduction across the physical body is the situation in which you find yourself stuck. For example, I found myself stuck at the head. I almost left the body, but my head was keeping me from leaving. And none of these difficulties are the result of energy blockages, like some people say. As it sometimes suggests in esoteric accounts of the OBE, or some New Age people say, you have some kind of blockage, But they merely represent the incomplete retraction of the physical senses in certain parts of the physical body. You managed to allow yourself to relax enough to where certain parts of your body has fallen asleep or become sensory deprived. But it didn't really happen. Now, you didn't fully become paralyzed. So a final variant of incomplete sensory retraction is sleep paralysis. Now, according to this guy, his name, again, I keep saying this guy, but his name is Frederick Aardema, Aardema, okay? This book that he wrote is called Explorations in Consciousness. You should grab it. I think it's a good one. Sleep paralysis, to him, is an incomplete sensory retraction during which you find yourself either partially or completely paralyzed, unable to move. It represents a situation in which you have progressed quite far, so you've delved pretty far into the transition process to the extent that sensory reduction no longer allows you to move physically. At the same time, sensory input has not decreased sufficiently. You still need to go a little further, okay, for you to be entirely free of physical limitations and move, quote, out of body. In other words, you're not just immobilized in a physical sense, but in a non-physical sense as well, which occurs within a very narrow band of consciousness, somewhere in between the intensification of energy sensations and sensory release. Sleep paralysis, he says, is by no means a frequent precursor of the OBE. But, what the hell was that noise? Did y'all hear that? That was probably just me. But expect it to occur now and then. The inability to move may give rise to fear, and it definitely does that, which can lead to various hallucinations or types of experiences. For example, it's not uncommon to hallucinate of being held down by a presence, or some people say there's some old hag sitting on my chest, or something like that. I've heard that before too. Yeah. Okay, so here's some journal entries. I love these freaking journal entries. I wish I could just listen to audios of journal entries. Would you guys do that for me? Would you just record things that happen to you? Just give me the date, the time, record them, send them to me, and I'll play them on the air, because those are my favorite things, Let's see here. I was going to go see what you guys are saying in the YouTube chat, but I get lost in it. Not calling in yet. That shit. Not ready. Why does there have to be an explanation when there is no answer? There doesn't, but I like to find explanations because that's what I'm passionate about. Let's see. Journal entry. Note the time. All right. February 8th, 2004, 3 a.m. None of these have been midnight, 11, 9 o'clock. You know, anytime the sun's been up, it's always after midnight. Sunday, February 8th, 2004, 3 a.m. I got stuck in sleep paralysis last night. It started out with inviting several hypnagogic images into my awareness. I'm not sure what happened next, except that I ended up lucid and alert while lying in bed, surrounded by a void-like darkness. Next, as soon as I was about to fly off, I felt a pair of foreign arms locked tightly around my waist, and I was utterly unable to move. Strangely enough, the pair of arms did not have a body to go along with them. It was like being held by a thing, or a character in the form of a disembodied hand from the Addams Family, maybe, but it was far too surreal to panic about, and I quickly surmised that I must be in sleep paralysis, hallucinating a pair of arms in the process. The arms were locked around my waist, leaving my own arms free to move. However, there was little I could do. They did not give an inch. I even went so far as to grab the fingers, trying to bend them backwards to force them to let go. But even a pinky was stronger than I. And if I was going to get out of this, I needed to be smart rather than to try to use force. Oh. See, this is where I get tossed up. Like, is this really a hallucination? Like, just because you go into the collective doesn't mean that it's not real per se, or just because you move into a different state of consciousness, right? So he's got this thing wrapped around him, these hands, some dark figure in these hands, and he's trying to peel the fingers back. That's so trippy. He said, I decided to trigger some imagery in the void above me. I relaxed my awareness while reaching out with my mind at the same time. A scene popped up almost immediately. 2 dogs were fighting, one of them quite viciously. I berated myself for not having reached out further. It seemed like some lower level phenomenon playing itself out in front of me, and one of the dogs was my own. She was only a little pug, and luckily she seemed to handle herself quite well against the much bigger vicious dog. So far, I had been observing all of this from a distance. Isn't this trippy? Like he's trying to get out of body. He's got this black thing like wrapped around him, and now he's seeing a vision of dogs fighting, and one of them's his dog. This is the kind of crazy shit that happens in consciousness exploration. I had no intention of putting myself in the middle of the fight and broke the connection before I got immersed in it. The scenery promptly disappeared as I turned my attention away from it. I was lying in bed, staring up into the void, and decided to try to reach out a second time. This time, however, I reached as far as I could. Almost immediately, my entire perceptual field was filled with an imposing scene. A huge golden chariot surrounded by white light raced towards me. Inside the chariot was a tall, larger-than-life individual. He had long white hair and a wild white beard. The chariot came at me fast, and while I was only observing the white surroundings that had almost developed my position inside the void, it would not take long for the chariot to reach my position and for me to become a part of the environment. I decided to break the connection yet again. I didn't want to end up under the chariot's wheels, and this time I found myself back in the physical body. Holy hell. What does that make you think about, right? What he's saying. Think about that. So he's aware that, I like this guy because he's aware of what's going on. He's aware of hypnagogia. He's aware that when he gets in sleep paralysis, that his fear will cause very real and vivid hallucinations. According to him, they're hallucinations. And 2, you remember when I was telling you guys about the faces in hypnagogia that just kind of pop in? Not only is he allowing these images to come in while he's in hypnagogia, he's playing with them. playing with him. Except he slipped so far into it at this point that a chariot with some white bearded Gandalf looking dude showed up, and he jumped back into his body because he didn't want to get run over. That's real conscious exploration, folks. It's not all, what people think it is when you read your books that you get out of the metaphysical section. Even though this is a book out of the metaphysical section, you know what I mean. So, now think about this real quick. Slight ADD moment, but how many religious texts do we have that have prophetic visions like that? I mean, even the Bible has text where it says, whether I was in the body or out of the body, I don't know. But I saw this, like I saw this on the Lord's day or whatever. I saw this thing. Wouldn't that be crazy if we based like all of our religions and our spiritual beliefs around people's hypnagogic experiences? I'm saying, it could be a thing. Okay. That was a good one, right? It was a pretty good one. I think it was a good one. Now we got some chat going on in the Discord too. Yeah. It's usually irrelevant though. Hold on. Not talking about the show here. Let's see. Let's see if I can find something. Purple Pencil says, we don't know what's entirely real, but in the present, and if your present state is there, I would say it's real somehow. Yeah, that's the thing. If you start questioning reality, I don't know if you're doing conscious exploration or if you're just questioning reality. I don't know if those are two of the same things, but it's definitely cool. All right, next journal thing, all right? I think they should make a TV show out of this stuff. I know it's weird, right? But like, can you imagine like a TV show where people just did episodes about these experiences? And not like a fake show, not where you have actors and characters, but like a documentary show, just back to back to back OBE stuff. These things on a show. I mean, right now it's just aliens. That's what we get all the time. Aliens. That's got to change. Wednesday, May 17th, 2006. Note the time, 4:40 a.m. Last night's experience began right after a dream. I woke up, remembered my intent to project, and immediately slipped back into the borderland between waking and sleeping. Energy sensations quickly followed. However, while still lying in bed, I received an unexpected percept of a dark figure. Here's another dark figure that was trying to make its way into the house. I perceived this in my mind's eye, remotely viewing what was outside. The scene made me quite uncomfortable, especially since the dream I had just woken up from, so he's not asleep. The dream I had just woken up from revolved around a similar theme. It felt like an intrusion of some kind, and immediately following the impression, I focused back on my surroundings to find the stranger sitting on the side of the bed right next to me. Holy shit. His hand was holding mine in an iron grip. I did not detect any animosity, but it was dark, and I could not identify the visitor, yet I had no intent to open up my vision for fear of what I could reveal itself. Yeah, that's when you know you're experiencing some crazy stuff, right? When you keep your eyes shut, you don't open them. I tried to get up, but found myself unable to move. Apparently, however, I could still move my arms and hands, and in a battle of wills, I squeezed his hand as hard as I could. There was no reaction despite the strong pressure I applied, and then it spoke. Who do you think I am? Wouldn't it? The dark figure asked. It sounded far too ominous. I wonder if it sounded like the devil or something. So you're in the dark. You're holding a hand. You won't open your eyes because you're afraid of it. And then it speaks. Who do you think I am? I would jump out of my skin, man. I'm a dude, I'm a dude. I'm not scared of much. I would still jump out of my skin, though. Who do you think I am? The dark figure asked. It sounded far too ominous. Yes, who are you? I shouted. And for some reason, the paralysis broke with my outburst of anger. No longer held down, I was in a fight or flight response and got very angry, promising the stranger that his life was soon to end. That's what I do too. I get pissed like that. I quickly rose toward the ceiling to gain the advantage. I can't tell you how many times I've been in that position in my life where I've gotten to fight or flight and have committed acts of violence because I'm not a runner. Some people run, some people don't. Not one's good or the other. I just don't. And this guy's the same way as I am. With some distance between myself and the figure, I finally opened up my vision and looked down into the bedroom. There was nothing, but the figure had vanished into thin air. And I soon decided I had enough for the night and proceeded to wake up. Back in bed, I noticed a faint sensation in my hand, the kind of sensation that would be left with after making a fist and squeezing as hard as you can. I probably had been squeezing my own hand, but I'm now left wondering if I missed some sort of opportunity. Any thoughts on that one? See, this is the real deal Holyfield of conscious exploration. You know, forget the blue beings from the 13th dimension and all the topaz colors and stuff. I'm not saying that stuff's not real, but like when the people here on Earth, this is what happens to us when we actually explore our consciousness. Okay. Joanne says, there's a movie called Insidious, which made me not want to leave my body for fear that something else would take control of my entire body while I'm flying through the void, and I realize it's a movie. Listen, Insidious, there's not a lot of movies that scare me, but Insidious did freak me out just a little. And if you keep watching like the Insidious series, they have a section in there where now they're all astral travelers, and they go into the further. So they figure out, and I think that the movies just adapt into society because we're all now talking about this stuff. But yeah, the first one scared me, actually. Maybe the second one, but the first one kind of freaked me out. A demon, Sir Wolf says, a demon I could deal with. It's the holding the hand. It's a step too far. Yeah. Fuck that movie, Joanne says. Yeah, I hear you. A real show about OBEs is Joe Root Blooding the Void. Oh, thanks. So he goes on to say, look, it can be quite difficult to break out of sleep paralysis, especially if fear and hallucinations are part of it. Try to break out of sleep paralysis in a physical manner. It's generally best to attempt to move a small body part, such as like your finger, and then press them down hard on the mattress of the bed. And often there will be faint impressions of underlying physical sensations. And this will help you return to physical-based awareness. However, if you still want to engage in an out-of-body experience, you'll have to find a visual exit point without any interfering body awareness. This brings us to the asymptotic pathways into the out-of-body state. Before we get into that, anybody got any kind of thing they want to add about that? Look, I can't speak on sleep paralysis that much because I never got it, all right? Like all of my OBE stuff, my body was paralyzed, but it wasn't like a fear or paralysis. It was induced. I wanted it to be paralyzed. But I have had a couple of times in my life where I've seen dark figures as I was falling asleep. Just saying. So dark that, and it's been years, but they used to happen frequently. I give you an example. I've talked about this before, but I used to have this thing where I would get anxiety when I was laying down. I don't know. I just start freaking myself out like I did when I was a kid for some reason, especially if it was really dark. I've always been kind of weary about just pitch blackness and silence. Until now, I actually enjoy it, but back then, no. So if you open your eyes in darkness, no matter how dark it is, usually your eyes will adjust and you'll be able to start to see silhouettes and shadows of things. You know what it's like looking in the dark. But what used to happen to me, and I'm afraid to talk about it because I don't want it to start happening again. But what used to happen to me is I would lay down, like I was at my friend's house one time, laying down facing the couch. Okay. And I would do that when I had this really crazy, I don't know, feeling, like some kind of weird negative energy feeling, but maybe it was just anxiety. I don't know. And I didn't want to turn around. However, I would. So naturally, I'd turn around a couple times on the couch and just look into the living room. Now, my friend lived in one of these really big double-wide trailers, okay? So I could see, you could see all the way down it. So I'd turn around and I'd look, waiting for my eyes to adjust. And eventually I could see the kitchen. I could see silhouettes of things. I could see the silhouette of the hallway into the master, the bar that came out into that kind of U shape. Okay, nothing's there. Then I turn around again, nothing. Everything. I could still see the silhouettes. My eyes are adjusted good. But I'd get this crazy feeling like something is there, man. And I've talked about this before. It's just not, it's not the same thing. And that night, it was like the third or fourth time when I looked. I turned around to look down the trailer again, and nothing but blackness, just complete blackness, almost as if somebody with a black shirt had just pressed their stomach right up against my eyeballs. Complete blackness. My eyes were already adjusted. I remember doing this, like my eyes just open like an owl. I was pushing them open like an owl, trying to see, and I couldn't. And it freaked me out so much I'd start reaching for a light. You can't see when you're fumbling around with your arms, knocking stuff over to try to find the light. So my heart would race. I'd freak out, try to find the light, turn it on, and then it'd go away. That happened to me a bunch in my life, but I was never paralyzed. So was this stuff that this guy experiences, is it really hallucination? I don't know. Think about it, though. Think about that thing talking to you. Who do you think I am? Shit. I'd be out of there. All right. So during the transitions described, you maintain some level of body awareness, or what can also be referred to as parasomatic transitions. Don't you love it when they put names to this stuff like that? However, an entirely different class of transition is the asatomic transition, during which no body awareness is maintained at all. There will be no continuity and body image as sensory input is reduced. Rather, any awareness of having a body will disappear in the process. Can you stop using the voices, y'all? I'm just trying to have a little fun here on this Tuesday evening. To induce an this sounds like a bad word. Asomatic. To induce an asomatic transition, you maintain a solely visual focus towards inner phenomena associated with the onset of sleep. Pay no attention to your body image, nor should any of the visual imagery occurring on the onset of sleep relate to even having a body. Just forget about your body. Then, as the physical senses retract, energy sensations may begin to occur, but none that relate to your body. Instead, energy sensations will remain limited to stroboscopic effects, light flashes, swirling colors, symbols, explosions, voices, and so on. Often, as soon as energy sensations of a visual nature occur, you'll find that your attention automatically focuses on your physical safety. So as soon as you start seeing stuff, you start wondering, are you safe? And this may have the outcome of body awareness returning, accompanied by energy sensations such as vibrations, electricity, buzzing, and chills. I get the buzzing thing, electricity, vibrations. You can still complete the transition into the out-of-body state, but it is no longer an asomatic transition. The visual focus required for the Asomatic. It sounds like a freaking vacuum cleaner. The Asomatic 555 vacuum cleaner. You can suck up all the dirt, no dust, no whatever. That's what it sounds like. I hate when they name this stuff. Just say inner transition or whatever. But anyways, the visual focus required for the asomatic transition can make it a difficult act to perform, at least in any controlled manner. However, expect some transitions to become more frequent in the course of your out-of-body activity. They're part of a natural progression in which you find yourself increasingly at ease with strange phenomena and less interested in body awareness. Hey, that's when you know it's getting good, man, when you start to become at ease about strange shit, stuff that makes no sense, and it doesn't bother you at all anymore. Welcome to the club. Yeah. Me, it's either sleep or behind my eyes trying to sleep. Yeah, man, maybe somebody is watching us. So quick thing, we're going to do this too because we were talking about it in Discord the other night when we were all hanging out. By the way, where the hell's Jenny? Anybody seen her? Anyways, movies that you need to watch that'll make you think about this kind of stuff. Alien Code, every one of you got to watch it. Go to your Amazon Prime, dig it out of there. It's called Alien Code. Watch it, and then get back to me. Matter of fact, I might make a little channel called Alien Code. All right? Watch that movie, then get back to me. Because that'll make you think about all this stuff. Journal entry. Now, this one's different. No, this is different. Sunday, June 18th, 2006 at 10 a.m. I slept in this morning and had an unusually late OBE. I'd already been drifting in and out of sleep for a while without intending to project. Eventually, I decided to give it a try. I allowed myself to drift gently while maintaining a relaxed visual focus, trying not to get too involved with the imagery and dreamscapes passing by. Then once I felt I had entered deep enough, I brought in full awareness without diverting any attention to my body awareness. Doing so almost immediately filled up my entire visual field with a gray-bluish color. The abruptness of the visual effect almost shocked me back into full wakefulness, but I managed to stay with it and continue to push ahead by allowing it to unfold further. Then just as quickly as the colors had appeared, they vanished from view, and my entire field of vision blacked out, and I found myself staring off into a familiar space. I was formless, suspended in the void. Check this out. All right. You guys remember when we listened to the Monroe tapes and TC or Thomas Campbell was, there actually are Joe Rogan recordings of Thomas Campbell having OBE experiences, just not any recordings with the other guy. But do you remember that when he talked about that exact same thing? Things are difficult. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time trying to communicate. Then he starts seeing these colors, and then he ends up in a void. If you go back and listen to those Monroe shows, it's in there. The ones where we were listening to and talking about that kind of stuff. The Monroe tapes. Here we go. Another journal entry. Saturday, August 19th, 2006, 3:25 a.m. I made an effort to have an out-of-body experience last night. I had already woken up twice before, after which I tried to remain lucid while drifting off. The third time, I felt rather bored and drifted off deeply into the hypnagogic stage without any attention directed towards my physical body. Instead, once I entered deep enough, I found myself quite automatically transported into the bedroom environment as if I was phasing into it. And this all happened quite accidentally and in lucidity. I think he spelled that wrong. And was less than usual, perhaps the result of the suddenness of the transition, but I still knew what I was doing and proceeded to make my way through the bedroom door and went downstairs. So this whole thing that he's talking about doesn't make a bit of sense to me, and I'm going to try to do this. But basically what he's saying is getting into a state of awareness without even being aware of the body. So for first, you have to actually fall into this place where you just forget about the body. Just forget it. It's not there. Doesn't exist. Captain's log, yeah. Captain's log, Sunday, March 11th, 2007 at 6:10 a.m. And my second attempt of the night, I entered, that's not the night, man. That's 6:10 a.m., dude. That's the morning. I entered deeper into the hypnagogic stage of sleep, quickly losing any sense of body in the process. Energy sensations were fairly minimal. There was no somatosensory sensations. There was no somatosensory sensations. Why do they make up these big ass words like that? How about say this, right? Like, there's no sense of the body at all whatsoever. No, it's somatosensory. I kind of do like it because I'm a nerd. They scientific minded people like to do that. They like to make up cool words for stuff like this. So even visual sensations were kept at a minimum until a screen effect appeared. My entire perceptual field filled up with horizontal lines of black and red, which then morphed into a surreal looking room. I saw myself standing in the middle of the room. It did not take me long to become part of the environment as an active participant. No longer was I viewing the event from a distance, but instead I was inside of it. I just dropped that movie in the Discord. Ain't seen it though. Yeah, you need to watch it. For sure. Because it'll make you think about like all these movies that we have about aliens and ETs and spaceships, all the stuff that we can't quite explain, even propulsion, things like that we've been talking about for years. Still a hot topic, aliens and whatnot. But if you watch this movie and pay attention, if you got ADD, take your Adderall, whatever. But watch this movie. And from start to finish, I think that whoever wrote that movie, Alien Code, for one, I don't know how the hell it got buried in Amazon the way it did, but whoever made that movie really decided, you know what, I'm going to explain consciousness interdimensionally and put aliens in there and make it all make sense in a way that sounds super real. Right, so check it out. Yeah, the Men in Black in that movie is crazy. Yeah. MIBs, man. Captain's log. Saturday, May 7th, 2005 at 4:05 a.m. Look, notice the best ones, the cooler ones, are closer to 3 o'clock for some reason. He says, I spent some time doing several imagination exercises last night. I was trying to imagine the color white as vividly as possible as I drifted off to sleep. At first, the color was difficult to imagine, but as I relaxed more and more, I began to see it with less effort. However, it was not until I drifted off even further that a bright light began to fill my entire field of visions as if it existed entirely independent of me. From there, my mind plunged forward towards the light. I did not feel a body, and yet I moved forward deeper into it. I know what some people are thinking already, right? It's a trick. Don't go into the light. It's a trick. Don't do it.
Step into the light.
Yeah, it's never. You remember, I had Wayne Bush on the show talking about that a long time ago. 1 or 2 seconds later, I began to see a texture. The light was like a piece of fabric with crossing threads of white linen. In between the threads were empty black space. I had moved in microscopically close by now. The empty black space began to expand, and soon I would be able to move my mind through the threads. I began to hear 1,000 whispering voices, but I ignored them, continuing to move towards the black space in between the linen, ever increasing in size until I no longer could discern any of the white threads. I had arrived This is what he puts at the end. We should just end on this. I had arrived at the void. ... Damn. Did he say he was in a dream was this a dream? I spent some time doing, it was an imagination exercise. Listen, never throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, active imagination or imagination exercises or conscious exploration, as far as using the imagination, is probably one of the coolest ways of exploring consciousness. If you guys want to know what I'm talking about with this, like, I'm kind of creating my own audio thing for all this stuff, but while you're waiting, study Carl Jung's active imagination techniques. And if you're a member of Gordon White's, I think it's Gordon White's group, he has a membership on Rune Soup. So he has a course in there called, I think it's called Journeying, where he uses Carl Jung's kind of like active imagination stuff with, it's not an OBE course. It's not like, but it's called Journeying, and it's really cool. I learned a lot using that, actually, from Gordon. I found that movie Alien Code watching it after you finish up. Yeah, man, everybody get on that. You know, you're going to think it's about time travel and all that, and at first it's not. It's got it all in there. Like, that movie probably explains 90% of everything that we've talked about for the past 10 years, and that's been on everyone else's show too. Could be real. What do you guys say? You guys want to go watch that movie? All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do one more of these. This is kind of a big one. It's pretty trippy, but I'm going to go for it. And then we'll wrap it up tonight. Tuesday, August 23rd, 2005, 2:10 a.m. I woke up often last night, an activity I have been cultivating lately. Then at around 2 a.m., I felt the familiar energy sensations. It was like an inaudible high-pitched wave of energy, neither entirely tactile nor auditory in nature. I was ready for the sensation to increase, and it did, until all physical sensations disappeared. I felt nothing. No second body, no bed. There was no sensation whatsoever. Instead, I found myself staring off into a wide expanse of blackness, the void. This is the fourth time this guy's mentioned the void. Not having a second body was a peculiar feeling. It was like staring off into a mental abyss without anything concrete to hold on to. Yet I was able to move, quote, move around in 3D blackness. Not in any physical sense, but I was rotating and moving my own consciousness through space. And after playing around with these rotations for a while, I decided to try to trigger some scenery from within the void. Doing so gave me a vague impression of a lighted humanoid shape hidden behind the veil of darkness. But nothing really manifested, however, and I returned to the physical body not long after. I wonder if that was an alien coming through, huh? Leaving you soon, watching the movie tonight. I got everybody interested in that movie. Yeah, I know all of you got Amazon Prime too. I'll tell you guys another cool one to watch tomorrow night, but this one's good. This one's real good. So no sense of separation is experienced during an isotonic transition, which means you just find yourself out of body. You didn't do anything to get out of body. I guess you just kind of like, you found yourself there. So this is not surprising, since during this type of transition, there's no body awareness to experience anyways, or any kind of sense of separation from the body. So consequently, you typically end up in a formless state, floating in an empty void as pure awareness. The void is a truly remarkable state of consciousness in which practically all contact with physical senses is severed. It represents the end result of sensory retraction, with almost all of the physical senses disengaged. At most, the auditory senses may still be partially operational, with sounds from the outside perceived in a muffled and distorted format. Otherwise, all contact with the physical senses has been lost, providing you with a great deal of freedom to move around wherever you want. Now, apply the void, or aptly, the void has been referred to as a minimum perceptual environment. In general, very little is ever perceived inside of the void. It is often completely dark. However, this darkness should not be confused with the flat two-dimensional type of darkness that occurs when you close your eyes. Rather, the void has a spatial depth as if you were staring into outer space. In fact, it is not this is going to get real trippy. The void has a spatial depth as if you were staring into outer space. Think about that. In fact, it is not uncommon to perceive various pinpoints of colored lights in the void, just like space, leaving one with the impression of stars. And it is unclear to me that these lights signify, except that they had to add the spatial depth to the void, making it appear more massive and increasing one's overall sense of mobility. Oh, man. It should be noted the void looks just like space. The construct, think about this, his consciousness has moved into a construct, a three-dimensional construct of pure programming. You're just consciousness in the void. And in this construct, and I mean just like the Matrix, the construct, but this is like the real one. In this construct, there are lights. And the reason why there are little bitty lights around is so it gives you some kind of depth perception, but that's it. Space, in my opinion, could be nothing more than that. The reason why we're in this little ball, this little pale blue dot in space playing all these human beings is because we are consciousness in the void, and space is nothing but that construct. And we can move our consciousness from planet to solar system to planet. We just decided to go play this little game. I'm thinking about lots of stuff right now. So it should be noted that the emergence of the void is by no means limited to the asotomic transition. Asomatic. That's you know what, man? We're making new t-shirts called Asomatic Transitions. Welcome to the void. And then I'll put a picture of a vacuum cleaner on it and an ass. It also commonly occurs after a parasomatic transition. It is more difficult to recognize, however, because following a parasomatic transition, you would generally seamlessly replace the physical environment with its non-physical version, more or less bypassing the void in the process. However, any darkness you perceive following a parasomatic transition is actually closely related to the void. Usually this phenomenon it's interpreted as blindness as you stumble around in your bedroom. I'm knocking to that one. That one's happened to me. Here. I've had that happen to me. Got out of body completely blind, completely in the dark. I could feel things, but it was totally dark. And usually this phenomenon is interpreted as blindness, and you will stumble around your bedroom. Yet do not be surprised to sometimes find yourself in a completely different environment than that of your bedroom as your vision opens up. You may, for example, step out of your own bed on top of the Himalayas, just as an example. So despite appearances, until you have engaged visually with your surroundings, do not make the assumption of being in your bedroom, not even when you can feel yourself lying in bed. You are, in fact, inside the void, which occurs before the actual manifestation of an out-of-body environment. Holy shit. That's crazy. Bryce King, a para-asomatic. Yeah, like, despite all of the humor and the delirious, like, fun stuff, there is a lot that we just talked about there that is super fascinating, and I wish I could put words to it. I want you to think about consciousness as a static field. Now, we call that static field space. And the only reason why it looks so damn big is because we're so damn small. It's all just relative. But that conscious field is a static field called space. And I have had too many people come on the show, including friends of mine, that have had OB experiences and gotten out of body and have found themselves in the void many times. Seemingly some kind of transitional place. Sometimes people think it's, purgatory. But what if it's just the empty construct waiting to be programmed by consciousness? And that's all it is. It is space, the final frontier. Now, I want you to think about that. Now, when you go outside and you look into space and all those stars look so vast and those twinkling little lights are coming down, it's only that big because you're so small. Just remember, it's all relative. That when you get out of this body and you really start to play with your consciousness, you can even play with those things. Relativity doesn't really matter. You're not in the body, so you don't have to be small. You don't have to be big. Anyways, watch that movie tonight. And also want you guys to think about, too, all right, what I just said there. Also, the double cube of space, the hypercube. Now, in the occult, they called it the double cube of space. It was actually represented in Malkuth. The altar that was in Malkuth was two black cubes, one stacked on the other. But it represented the hypercube, the double cube. Okay? Just think about that right there. Let your mind wander, okay? Let your mind wander. I don't want to keep going into stuff and getting everybody all over the place, but watch Alien Code tonight. And then I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to make a voice room and if you're not in Discord, you can email me too if you want. But I'm going to make a text channel and I'm going to call it Void Walking Movies. Whatever you guys find about that movie or that you like or don't, drop the info in the Discord. Even movies that you think we should watch. Because they put some really, really cool movies. I mean, like deep, you got to go digging for them to find them. So, who are you? All right. Who are you? Who are you? Are you talking about that? Now I'm starting to think about Alice in Wonderland. All right, I'm gonna go watch that movie too with you guys. We're gonna get out of here. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow night, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, right? Please, if you can, those of you that have supported the show, thank you so much. If you haven't, please try to. We're in one of those weird, stupid things where we do need some support. So if you can donate, please do so. Grab a shirt, anything. If you can't, you can always support the show just by sharing it, leaving it, liking it, and reviewing it too. All right. Love you guys. See you in the Discord. Night night. Sweet dreams.
What day is it? What's my name? It looks like I'm alone. I guess it's life. I gaze out the window now. Guess I gotta get up and face up to what's up. I wish I could see.
Who is it? Do you think I am?
Can fake it. Give me some relief. Say it's just a dream. I can wait. I saw with relief. It was just a dream. I can't face it. Give me some relief. Say it's just a dream. Give me time. I'm still coming down.